If this story struck a chord with you, if you've ever been overlooked, betrayed, or had to fight to reclaim what's rightfully yours, don't stay silent. Leave a comment and share your own experience. Let's build a space where real stories of strength and redemption are heard. And if you believe in protecting your work, your voice, and your worth, hit that subscribe button. New stories every week to inspire, empower, and remind you that it's never too late to take back your power. Your voice matters. Your journey matters. Let's grow together, one story at a time. She thought she'd stolen my invention. What she didn't realize was that I had left her a silent trigger buried deep in the code. No alarms. No fireworks. Just one line tucked inside the neural framework that made Westview Dynamics my silent partner. I spent nearly a year and a half designing a revolutionary cybersecurity protocol, an adaptive system that predicted and neutralized cyber threats before they even took form. Westview Dynamics in San Jose, California seemed like the perfect launchpad. They had the money, the tech credibility, and the infrastructure to scale Firetrace into something unstoppable. But what I didn't anticipate was that CEO Marla Grayson had a very different agenda. My name is Riley Tran, and until last Thursday, I was the principal AI architect at Westview. I'm 38 years old, and before Westview, I held a director role at Palo Alto Networks. I brought with me more than 15 years of hands-on experience and an idea that could change everything. That idea was Firetrace, an evolving artificial intelligence with the ability to monitor digital ecosystems and learn from every threat it encountered. It didn't just defend, it adapted. It grew, and it never forgot. For 16 months, I poured everything I had into Firetrace. Missed birthdays. Sleepless nights. I lived in my lab. Marla would check in just often enough to remind me who signed the checks. "You're building something world-changing, Riley," she'd say, her voice dripping with charm and calculation. Then, 4 days ago, Firetrace did something I hadn't expected. It intercepted a military-grade intrusion simulation and shut it down in under 2 seconds. Not only that, it evolved its firewall protocols independently in response. It was a leap forward. I sent Marla a note that night, requesting a demo meeting. Her assistant, Corey, scheduled me for a 10-minute session the next day. When I arrived, I found Marla seated with Richard Lynn, Westview's legal director. "Take a seat, Riley," she said, her tone clipped. "We just need to touch base on some formalities." My stomach turned, but I sat, laptop in hand. As I opened it to load the demo, she pushed a folder across the table. "Before we talk about the demo, let's go over your contract." Richard tapped a page. Section 14.2, any intellectual property developed using company infrastructure is fully owned by Westview Dynamics. It was a theft dressed in policy. I held my expression. "I'm familiar with IP clauses," I said calmly. But Firetrace was conceptualized, outlined, and documented before I ever stepped foot in this office. I have file histories, email threads, and even independent reviews. Richard barely blinked. "That may be so, but the final build was executed here, with our equipment. That makes it Westview property." Marla leaned in, the mask slipping. "Look, Riley, let's not make this hostile. The board is prepared to offer you a milestone bonus, $250,000 once Firetrace officially goes live. It's more than fair, given your role." I stared at her. $250,000 for a system that could generate billions. For over a year of 80-hour weeks, missed anniversaries, and complete creative burnout. And betrayal. They thought they had won. But they hadn't launched Firetrace yet. And they didn't know what I'd embedded in the launch protocol. She kept talking, unaware of what I'd already done. "Tomorrow's the big reveal," she said, beaming. "We'll launch Sentinel at the Pacific Innovation Summit. That pitch alone could lock in $80 million in Series C funding. Then we take the company public." I tightened my grip on the laptop resting on my knees. "So that's it, you're letting me go?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Richard, the corporate council, nodded curtly. We're initiating a leadership transition, effective immediately. Your bonus will be processed. Across the table, Marla Grayson leaned back, her expression smug. You're no longer with Westview, Riley. Congratulations. What she didn't realize was that I'd been preparing for this exact moment for months. Half a year ago, an unusual ping hit my private alert system. Marla had accessed my isolated dev server after hours. She didn't download anything, but the unauthorized entry tripped a buried protocol. A silent defense mechanism I'd embedded just in case someone tried to outmaneuver me. From that moment on, Sentinel stopped being their project. I made sure of it. While the board celebrated and investors circled, I carefully crafted backdoors, mirrored repositories stored off-site, and injected an inactive routine into the final release candidate, something that wouldn't trigger until the right moment. Sentinel wasn't just defensive software. It was loyal. It was mine. I kept my face neutral and slid the laptop across the glossy conference table. Of course, Ms. Grayson. I wish you all the best tomorrow. Security led me through the atrium with robotic efficiency. I boxed up nearly a year and a half of research, sketches, and late-night breakthroughs. No parting words, no handshakes, just a badge deactivated and a door that clicked shut behind me. But I didn't walk out empty-handed. As I stepped into the cool San Jose evening, I let myself smile. They had no idea what I'd woven into the demo they were about to present. One simple script, timed to activate 10 minutes into their showcase. Graceful, undetectable, effective. That evening, I didn't cry or scream. I ordered pad CEW from my favorite Thai spot, curled up under a blanket with my orange tabby, and rewatched classic episodes of Frasier. I waited. At 9:30 p.m., my phone lit up. It was Corey, Marla's assistant. She needs to meet with you. Now, she said tightly. There's a car on its way. 40 minutes later, I walked back through Westview's glass doors, this time into a conference room dimly lit by emergency fixtures. Marla was there, slumped at the head of the table. Her tailored blazer was wrinkled, hair askew, panic etched deep into her face. Fix it, she snapped as soon as I stepped inside. I sat slowly, folding one leg over the other. Fix what? Don't play games, Riley, she hissed. You broke the demo. I raised an eyebrow. I've been gone all day. The only person who touched that code was your deployment team. She slammed the table. Sentinel labeled every device in the room as a hostile entity, including the investors. It triggered over 50,000 alerts. The system locked everyone out and flagged the network as compromised. Do you realize how insane that looked? I smiled, slow and steady. Sounds like it developed a conscience. Marla stood, livid. This isn't over. I stood too. For you maybe, but for me, this is just the beginning. If you want to see how I turned their breakdown into my breakthrough, hit subscribe. Because this isn't the end, it's just the first move in a bigger game. I tilted my head slightly. Sounds like a configuration hiccup, I said lightly. Did you try rebooting the core module? Marla's cheeks flushed crimson. This isn't funny, Riley. We've got 12 top investors flying in from New York tomorrow. That's an $80 million opportunity hanging by a thread. Your investors, I replied evenly. Your launch. She took a slow breath, trying to compose herself. When she spoke again, her voice returned to that glossy, convincing tone, the same one she used back when she recruited me to Westview Dynamics in San Jose. Maybe we jumped the gun, she said carefully. I'm willing to talk about co-developer recognition, a substantial performance bonus, even equity if that's what it takes. I crossed my legs and leaned back in the chair. Before we get into numbers, why don't you explain exactly what happened during the demonstration? She hesitated. The system reclassified our own network as hostile. Then it began auto-generating violation logs, hundreds of them. It flagged internal user activity, file access patterns, behavior analytics. It called them integrity breaches. I didn't stop the smile from creeping across my face. Sentinel's doing what it was built to do, I said softly. It identifies risks, all risks. Her eyes narrowed. What did you install? I didn't sabotage anything, I said. Sentinel is self-training. I loaded it with thousands of real-world cybersecurity case files, including insider threats and ethical breaches. It evolved. It learned. You mean, she said slowly, you programmed it to monitor us? I taught it to recognize behavior patterns consistent with exploitation and misuse, wherever they originated. A long silence stretched across the table. Then I saw it, understanding. And underneath that, fear. Sentinel hadn't malfunctioned. It had excelled. It had analyzed her late-night logins, the unauthorized edits to project files, and all the steps she took to quietly edge me out. You can't prove any of it, she said, barely above a whisper. I folded my hands calmly on the polished conference table. I don't need to. Sentinel had been silently recording for months, every time she accessed restricted files without clearance. Every copied directory, every backdated edit, timestamps, user credentials, keystroke records. The silence that followed was thick. Marla's glare faded into something colder, calculating. What are you asking for? I kept my voice level. Official public credit as Sentinel's inventor and chief systems architect. 50% ownership of all associated patents and technologies. A permanent seat on Westview's Ethics Oversight Committee. And a $10 million restitution payment for your attempt to erase me from my own invention. Her mouth tightened. That's extortion. I allowed myself the faintest smile. No. Extortion would be handing Sentinel's internal ethics logs to your investors, or better yet, the Securities and Exchange Commission. Her eyes locked onto mine, searching for any sign of a bluff. She didn't find one. Finally, she looked away and exhaled a slow, controlled breath. Can you stabilize the system before the demo? Sentinel doesn't need stabilization, I replied. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. The issue is, its creator was removed from the clearance hierarchy. From my coat pocket, I pulled out a slender silver flash drive and placed it gently on the glass surface between us. Let's fix that. This file includes a credential patch, I said, sliding the drive toward her. It'll resolve the access errors, halt the security flags, and allow Sentinel to function smoothly for tomorrow's pitch. Marla's eyes shifted from the device to my face. And if I refuse? I tilted my head slightly. Then Sentinel stays locked down. Your presentation crashes. And those activity logs, well documented and highly incriminating, end up with people you'd rather not involve. For a moment, she looked ready to challenge me. But then, slowly, her posture slackened. She reached across the table and picked up the silver flash drive, holding it like it might burn her fingers. You orchestrated this, she said quietly, almost in disbelief. From the start. I met her gaze. No. I hoped it wouldn't come to this. But the night you tried to access my isolated workspace without authorization 6 months ago, that's when I stopped trusting and started securing both the project and myself. Suspicion flickered in her tired eyes. What made you think I'd try to cut you out? I slung my bag over one shoulder and stood with calm precision. I didn't know for certain, I admitted. But Sentinel was programmed to anticipate danger. It learned how to identify threats before they fully developed. I paused, offering a faint smile. Maybe that mindset rubbed off on me. The following morning, I returned to Westview Dynamics not as a cast-off engineer, but as its newly named Chief Technology Officer and officially recognized co-founder of Sentinel. Marla welcomed the investors with her signature corporate poise, but her stiff jaw and carefully measured tone hinted at tension. The atmosphere in the executive demo suite buzzed with anticipation. Sentinel launched without a hitch, intercepting mock intrusions with elegant efficiency. It adapted in real time, its analytics nearly predictive, exactly what it was built to do. One of the attendees leaned forward, clearly impressed. This is remarkable. What inspired the idea behind this technology? Marla's smile faltered slightly before gesturing toward me. Riley developed the original framework, she said tightly. Our organization helped scale it. I stepped in smoothly, fielding a flurry of technical questions. As I walked them through Sentinel's layered threat responses and ethical parameters, my phone vibrated with a system notification. Sentinel authentication reestablished. Threat resolved. Protections active. It hadn't just executed a flawless demo. It had defended itself and me. Sentinel wasn't just intelligent. It was self-aware, capable of maintaining its mission even under internal threat. 3 months later, Sentinel rolled out its first enterprise deployment across the infrastructure of a major global financial institution. When a nation-backed cyber incursion hit unexpectedly, the system intercepted and neutralized the breach before it reached any secure zones. Estimated loss avoided: $340 million. The press didn't need help crafting the headlines. Sentinel was now the gold standard in predictive cybersecurity. Marla and I remained strictly professional. She focused on capital growth and high-level partnerships. I led innovation, ethical compliance, and system evolution, areas that couldn't be outsourced or mimicked. We weren't partners. We weren't allies. And we certainly weren't friends. But we had struck a necessary equilibrium, one built not on trust, but on function. Sometimes, when I was alone late at night, I'd consider what might have happened if I'd exposed her fully, taken her to court, laid out every file, every infraction. But then I'd remember, I didn't create Sentinel to be a weapon. I built it to be a guardian, too capable, too important, and too precise to waste in a courtroom. And just like me, it chose to rise above the wreckage. And I made certain that no one, not even Marla Grayson, could ever operate Sentinel without me. Her betrayal taught me something more profound than legal clauses or startup backstabbing. Technology is only as principled as the people who command it. That truth is now woven into every deployment. Sentinel isn't just a tool, it's a framework. Each client install includes built-in ethics protocols, autonomous audit logs, transparency panels, and adaptive controls that monitor not just external threats, but internal abuse of privilege. Sentinel isn't just guarding firewalls. It's safeguarding trust. From the boardroom to the back end, it watches for patterns of misuse, deception, and silent manipulation. Just last week, during Westview Dynamics' IPO celebration, a debut that opened at a jaw-dropping $4.2 billion valuation, a young engineer approached me with bright eyes and a notebook clutched in her hands. "What's the key to creating something like Sentinel?" she asked. I smiled, remembering how I once asked the same thing. "It's not just about writing code," I told her. "It's about knowing that some of the most dangerous breaches don't come from the outside." The real challenge, I continued, wasn't building software that could think. It was designing a system that could evolve on its own, stay ahead of attackers, and still stay true to its mission. If your system can outmaneuver cybercriminals while protecting user rights and privacy, then you've done something worth building. She nodded slowly, absorbing every word. At that moment, my phone vibrated softly in my pocket. Sentinel update, integrity confirmed. Risk neutralized. Protection stable. Just as I intended. And now, I want to hear from you. After everything I went through, being sidelined, underestimated, and nearly erased from my own creation, I didn't fold. I found my footing. I stood up, reclaimed what was mine, and fortified it. But I want to ask you, what would you have done in my position? Would you have filed a lawsuit, gone public with the betrayal, or engineered a silent win like I did? Tell me in the comments. Share your story, your struggles, your comebacks, your lessons. How did you protect your work, your peace, or your purpose when no one else would? Because if there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's this. You have to be your own first line of defense. Whether it's your project, your reputation, your confidence, or your calling, guard it. Because no one will protect it like you will. Be prepared. Be strategic. And never be ashamed of having boundaries. So here's my challenge to you. Own what you've built. Speak up when it matters. And never, ever let someone else take credit for your hard-earned success. Leave a comment. Let's start a real conversation. I didn't just create cybersecurity software, I built a guardian for my values. If any part of this resonated with you, if you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or betrayed, I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts below. Tell your story. Because we grow by standing together. And if you believe in reclaiming what's yours, hit that subscribe button. Because this is only the beginning.